this is my entrepreneurial chapter now. The first time round was a practice run. You cut your teeth in that setting, but now this is it now. This is your opportunity. The mundane or doing the same thing scares me more than the fear of the unknown. I want to take a risk. I want to take all the lessons and all of the skills, good and bad, that I've gained over the last 20 odd years, and I want to see how I can apply it. So it's quite empowering. It's very empowering, actually, feeling like you've got the power to choose and knowing that you are ultimately in control of the path that you take.
Are you feeling unfulfilled as a woman in your career and currently you're out of alignment with where you thought you were heading? You may be feeling burnt out, or you're always treading that tricky tightrope of engaged but burnt out, engaged but burnt out. If that's you and you're feeling frustrated, I've got some exciting conversation here with Suzi Payne. We're going to dive into a few things for corporate women so you can take control, make better choices for your career so you can get yourself back in alignment. Now, let me tell you about Suzi before I say hi to her, because that's going to speed things up and get us to jump straight in. So she is a business and digital transformation expert, a supremo, and worked for some of the biggest brands in the world, kind of companies like Citibank, Rolls, Royce, even spent some time at Royal Mail in the UK. So these are stellar organizations where she's been able to play her trade. And so she's doing that as well as being a startup mentor for startup businesses up to kind of 50 people in size. She's also doing career success, and she's just recently launched a career success podcast and show. So she'll be helping people with that. But I want to let you know that she is a project program executive supremo who worked in director and VP level positions. Suzi, how are you doing today?
Hi, James. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited to dive in.
All right. Well, let's go with the first question so people get to hear straight from you. When did you know that your career was off the rails?
Wow. Now, that is an interesting question. So my career has been a real windy path of working in permanent, in corporate, working permanently for a number of companies, but the bulk of my career has been self-employed, running my own consultancy business as a contractor and as an interim. And I would say when I hit age 40, I was a little bit plateau in my career. I hit a plateau. I was feeling a little bit unsure what direction that I wanted to take it in. I'd been an interim consultant for quite a long time. So I decided to take a very, very left turn, and that was to leave the world of an entrepreneurship, which I'd been in for probably 14, 15 years at that point, to go and work permanently, and with the intention of really settling into my career and climbing the career ladder. So I set myself very clear goals, and I was pushing for VP and CEO by like age 50, and I was going for it. And the first few years of that journey, really, really positive. And then I don't know what happened. Things started to change for me, and I started to feel very different. I think for the first 2 years, I was working in a relatively small organization with a lot of autonomy. So I was in control of my own career path. I was setting my own role. I was building my own team, and it was really dynamic and fantastic. And then I joined an amazing, incredible, but very large organization. And that's when I started to feel very differently about the path that I'd chosen. And it took me about 2 years of really diving deep into the self-development, into the mindset piece, and looking at what I wanted and what fulfilled me, that I really started to come to the realization that I was massively out of alignment. And the conclusion being that I drew by the end of it is that I'm just really not destined to be permanent, and that I needed to take control of my own career success and get back out there as an entrepreneur. And that's where I'm at now. So within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be back to being self-employed. I've got quite a few ideas, more ideas than time, I think, is going to be my challenge. But I'm excited for what the future holds now, and the entrepreneurial journey round 2. that is ahead of me.
Well, that's a kind of inspiring conversation, because I talk to a lot of employees who are moving to entrepreneur, but you were an entrepreneur to employee and now about to transition back to entrepreneur. So it's kind of interesting. I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, which was you identified when you turned 40 that there was a plateau, and that I just kind of want to dive in on that so people watching this can understand, well, what did that feel like? Well, what were you experiencing when you got a plateau? Were there emotions? What were the kind of conversations you were having with yourself?
I go through a bit of a cycle every 2 years in my career, and it's been a theme for me. Every 2 years I get like itchy feet and I need to do something different. I'm all for the challenge. So I'm very big on focusing on high performance. I've got a huge focus on growth mindset, and I love throwing myself outside of my comfort zone. So I never want to do the same role for very long or twice. I always want to see what I can achieve and how I can unlock my own potential. And I hit age 40, and I'd been doing the program delivery role as a contract consultant for quite a long time. And I just really felt like I wanted something more and something different. I didn't want to keep doing it and just doing another contract after another contract, because it had got to the point where it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. It was great and every role was a challenge, but I needed something completely different. And I think if I'd have stayed the course and just sat with it a little bit longer, maybe I'd have made a different decision, but we can't look back. So that's when I made the decision to go permanent. And it was the feelings that I was going through, and it was over quite a period of time, I would say probably a year, was I felt goalless. So I felt like I was floundering around. I wanted more success. I didn't know what that looked like. That was keeping me very stuck and very frustrated. I felt like at this point in my career, I tried a lot of different things and I knew what I was good at and what I was up for and what I wasn't. I was really clear on that. So I knew what my value proposition was and all my unique strengths. And I was just really wanting to take myself to the next level and see what I could achieve. So the left turn into going permanent felt like a great complete change of what I was doing. And it was amazing. But I think it gave me a new set of goals, which got me out of that frustrated and I would say demoralized state. Because when I've got no goals, I always laugh because I always sound like a fish out of water, like flapping around. I don't know what direction to turn. So the most important thing to me is to have really clear goals. And then once I know what my goals are, I can really go after them with conviction. So that was it really, mainly frustration and just getting really despondent around the whole situation. I'd also come out of a very, very strategic, senior, and amazing contract with Experian. And everything that was coming across my desk as an opportunity, it was falling short. And nothing was coming. It was around the time COVID was starting as well. So opportunities were even lower as a result of that. And I just thought, I've got to do something different. And that need to take control of my own career destiny kicked in. And I thought, right, I'm going to go and work permanently for somewhere and I'm going to grow my career and climb that ladder.
So perhaps tell me a little bit about what was the hardest thing about going to a permanent position after you'd been you've been an entrepreneur and rolling as contracted before. So what did you find difficult and what did you find easy?
So what did I find easy? We'll come back to that one. What I found difficult was going into such a vast organization, which was an incredible business. I felt I'd gone from being very needed as a contractor for my business transformation expertise. And my whole career for the last 15 years to that point had been something's broken or something needs initiating, we'll give it to Suzi. And I was very well known in my kind of niche for being the person who fixes stuff. So whether it's spinning up a new business unit or fixing a business unit, turning a company around, failing a really significant program of work for a business, or initiating something that's hard to get off the ground, they were all in my wheelhouse. And suddenly going from feeling very needed for a specific outcome and task to being permanent, I just felt totally like there was no impact there. Like I was not making impact at all in my career, and I was desperately missing it. So there was that desire for having some significance in role. And I did Clifton Strengths about a year ago, and one of my top strengths that came out was significance. And it's not an ego thing. It's really not. It's about what energizes me is the challenge. So give me a challenge of something that's broken and you'll get me all in, and I'll go hell for leather, whipping that thing into shape and getting it into a good operational state. So that's the first thing that I found very difficult, is not being needed for something specific and instead just being another person on the team that they could perhaps put onto something. That was one thing. The other thing was the pace. So for me, being a consultant, you've got to get in there, you've got to roll your sleeves up, and you have got to hit the ground running, because they're paying top dollar for that type of role. So you can't go in and take your time to onboard and take your time to get up to speed. And that followed through when I moved into permanent. So when I started with the company that I ended up working for, I was just desperately wanting to prove myself and prove myself really quickly. And the role itself didn't allow that. So like the first 4 to 6 weeks of me being in that role, I was doing training and nothing but training. And I found that incredibly hard when I was just chomping at the bit to get stuck in and do the work. What did I find easy? I guess the stability of it. At first, it was being in a stable role felt outside of my comfort zone because I'd been so used to not having any stability as an interim. And then it very, very quickly became, actually, this is quite nice to know that I've got holiday pay and time off sick if I need it. It took a little bit of pressure off in that respect, knowing that if I took it, I could get paid for being out. But that contractor mentality, it stayed with me. I would say for the first 3 or so years of being permanent, and I grappled with it massively. And that's probably another one of the hardest things, me wanting to prove myself every day and get on with the job and be in the trenches. And it isn't like that when you're in a permanent role. You move at the pace of the company.
I think when you are in Clifton Strengths, significance is under the kind of influence banner. So there are 3 others. They're kind of executing, building, thinking. But significance is that influence piece. And if you don't feel like you can influence, and I'm talking to the people watching us now, that might be where you resonate with some of Suzi's messaging, because that's the thing tying you up inside and creating that conflict. So tell us a little bit then about the shift, then let's tell us about that self-development journey. When you're in the permanent role, you then shared that's when you're starting thinking, okay, I'm going to need a change because I can't exact my influence in the way I would like to. So what was your approach to self-development? How did you go about that?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with the influence piece. In an incredibly large organization, you are never going to be able to make impact and influence. The first 2 years of my permanent career from age 40, like I say, it was more of a startup environment. So I had great influence and impact in there. So I would say the self-development journey for me, which, to be honest, it was like going back. So from age 30, I invested a lot of time, money, and really focused myself on developing that whole personal development journey as an entrepreneur. I went on from like age 30 to age 40. So I was well versed in that. What I don't think I was prepared for was almost having to retract my decision to go permanent. And I fought against it for so long. So in my head, I'd made a decision. I'd chosen the path to be permanent, and I needed to stick on that path, come what may. For the first 2 years of feeling like that, I was like, right, we're not going to go back self-employed. We are going to do this, and we're going to make this work. So I would say a lot of podcasts around mindset, high performance. I looked in every direction. I had executive coaching. I had some CBT counselling, the whole thing. And yes, it was all fantastic. I did courses. I did Clifton Strengths, I've had a human design mapping, and it's all been incredibly insightful. The penny didn't drop until probably, I'd say about 6 months ago, where I felt like I'd grappled with this feeling for about a year and a half, and it was almost like enough's enough now. Hold the mirror up and really look at what's going on here, because you can't get yourself out of feeling misaligned in your career. I was looking at other CEOs and other really senior leaders in organizations, and I was thinking, do I aspire still to be that person? And I knew in my heart the answer was no. Whereas if I look at some of the incredible entrepreneurs like Richard Branson or Stephen Bartlett, I'm absolute super fan of like Shark Tank in the States. That is the thing. I watch Shark Tank like people watch Netflix. It's really sad to some people, but that whole thing, and it starts so slowly but surely, the pieces started slotting back together, and the realization dawned on me slowly, but then like that you are misaligned because you are not a permanent employee. And then I started having conversation with people like ex-contractor colleagues, and I'll say, I'm feeling like this, and I'm thinking this is not the path for me. But I thought it was going to be, I thought I was going to climb the ladder and be a CEO. And like one of them said to me, I don't know how you ever thought you could fit yourself into a permanent box. And I kind of took a step back and I was like, wow. So it was so like somebody else could see it so clearly, but I could not see it for myself. And the minute that realization started setting in, it was like, right, action time now. We work out how we make this happen.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people watching this, and the feelings you're describing is kind of what I had experienced in my own career. I did a kind of employee entrepreneur. That was kind of my journey. That's because that fire inside you never goes out. That pilot light is always there, and sometimes we throw water on it, and sometimes we throw some kerosene on it, and it lights up brightly. And we know, I really got to go and do my own thing. I got to push that. I think that's a powerful lesson to anybody. If you're watching this and that's you, that fire has always been burning inside of you, but you've not been sure what step to take, then you've just heard it's more about you're going to live in conflict and misery staying where you are versus you can eliminate the conflict by taking this step outside. Hey, this is James. I'm jumping in the middle of the video here because I want to let you know that there's an opportunity by clicking the link in the description underneath this video to meet me for 30 minutes. In that meeting, I will give you 2 or 3 strategies or 2 to 3 big ideas that will change your career, your mission, your business, and maybe even your life if you'll commit to acting on those things. Now, I want to let you know, I'm not there to sell you anything. I don't have anything to sell you, but I do want to have a conversation with you so you can get into momentum and start to execute against your priority activities. What do you think, because on your journey, what do you think was the thing that maybe worried you about turning back from the contract? So you went contract to permanent. So when you were permanent, what worried you most about turning back to becoming contractor again, or becoming self-employed or solopreneur, whatever you want to call that? What worried you most?
Just going back. I never go back. I'm so ambitious. It's unbelievable. And it's never changed. I've always been really, really ambitious, and I value growth. So I never, ever want to feel like I've taken a step back. And it's not about title or anything like that. It's about capability. It's about potential. It's about me feeling challenged and like I'm making an impact in the world. And that was the scariest thing, is like having to make the decision to go back to being in my own business. Yeah, I felt the right thing to do, but I fundamentally knew that I absolutely couldn't just spin it back up as it was before, because I knew that in another year I'd be back, or probably less, I'd be back to the same scenario. And then maybe the cycle would have gone back round, and maybe another permanent role would have come and said, try me. And I think for me, there's a lot of gratitude in these last 4.5 years, in the sense that there's been some incredible lessons. My capability and the roles that I've done have broadened out my skill set tremendously. So going back round that entrepreneurial loop, I feel so much more capable, so like I've got so much more to give, and much more clearer now on my own unique value, what I am capable of, what I'm totally disinterested in, which I'm going to avoid like the plague. That's the other lesson for me, is when I'm all in something, I'm very black and white. If I'm all in something and it energizes me, I'm really, really committed to it. If I'm not interested in something, I find it very, very hard to apply myself. So not going back and just spinning up the same thing is the answer there. I need to do something different. And I'm looking at this next chapter with fresh eyes. I've got loads of ideas, like light bulbs going off in my head. And I keep saying to myself, this is my entrepreneurial chapter now. The first time round was a practice run. You cut your teeth in that setting, but now this is it now. This is your opportunity. You're 45 in December, which is like just devastating to me. But I feel like this is my time now. The children are older. I've got more time back for myself. I'm clear on my boundaries, my work-life balance, the whole thing. And this time round, I want to go into that entrepreneurial piece with a fresh fire lit inside of me to really see what I can achieve and just feel into it and push myself outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah, and I can see, and people watching can see, you seem excited about that. So what excites you most about what's about to happen as you're on the precipice of leaving permanent employment? I think you told me it's in weeks, if it's not already happened. Is it the end of the month?
It's a week and a half.
A week and a half, yeah. So you're 10 days away from this step. But what is it that's exciting you most? Because I think people hearing that tells them, oh, yeah, that's the thing that I would get most excited about as well. So what is that?
What's exciting me the most is the unknown. So that'd be scary to a lot of people. But to me, the mundane or doing the same thing scares me more than the fear of the unknown. I want to take a risk. I want to take all the lessons and all of the skills, good and bad, that I've gained over the last 20 odd years, and I want to see how I can apply it. I want to see what's out there for me and what I can do. And that's what excites me, that this is really an opportunity to just try something new, try something completely different and see where the path takes me. So I'm super excited for where the future's going to go. And yeah, I mean, maybe I'll be here in 2 years on that cycle again saying maybe I want to go permanent. But right now, that's not, that whole entrepreneurial and business building piece of me is, I feel like it's untapped and I want to see where I can take that next.
No, and I think that's good because my perspective, and for what it's worth, and just kind of in this conversation, is for somebody to say, I have a fear of the unknown, you're basically saying I'm making a glorified, heartfelt justification, aka excuse for why I'm not going to do anything. Because if you genuinely fear of the unknown, meaning you don't know what's going to happen, which is nothing, so you're scared of nothing. Because if you don't know what's going to happen, then what are you actually fearful of? So I think it's more of an excuse and a kind of pattern that people get themselves into is, well, I wouldn't be sure what the future holds to me if I don't understand it. Yet, these are the same people who get most excited by spontaneity and uncertainty in their lives and variety in their lives, because they're the same people, if you buy them tickets on their birthday to a show and they didn't expect it, but they want to go to the show. I think people like surprises, but only the ones they want. But that's spontaneity and that's variety. And how many times the best times of your life were likely spontaneous? They were probably uncertain. And I think people have to seek that. And so I like that you said it, because I think it's powerful that if you're the person who has this burning inside of you, then what Suzi's doing here is exactly why you should eliminate the misery and conflict that you're living with of staying where you are in a permanent position and make the leap into something that's going to be more fulfilling for your soul more than anything else. You find the thing that you want to do. And then I think I want to ask you some questions about, so what's next? So I wanted to talk to you about, what do you think about the adventure you're about to go on? And then what is it do you think you'll love the most about that adventure?
Oh, I am excited about the adventure. I would say the potential. It's daunting in some respects, thinking that your destiny is in your hands, but it's so empowering to take control of that. So for anyone who is feeling a little bit stuck, frustrated, out of alignment, I mean, I've had times in my career where I've felt frustrated because my employer is not moving my career as forward as quickly and promoting me as quick as what I perceive I want to move forward at. So it's quite empowering. It's very empowering, actually, feeling like you've got the power to choose and knowing that you are ultimately in control of the path that you take. So the most exciting thing for me is the just walking through the next steps on that road of what the potential is and what could happen. I have no idea. I've got corporate clients lined up. That's amazing. And I'm really, really excited for that. But beyond that, I want to feel into some other entrepreneurial business ideas as well and see where I can take them. So I would say excitement over the potential of what's ahead and not fear of it. It's daunting, don't get me wrong. I mean, if I screw it up, it's on me, isn't it? I can't blame anyone. Hopefully I won't bankrupt us in the process, taking, entrepreneurial risks. But I'd like to think that I've got enough savvy business sense now after 20 odd years that we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And you mentioned, Sir Richard Branson, you mentioned Stephen Bartlett, and we think about those two examples. These are people who came from very little, typically, or came up against obstacles. So let's do Stephen Bartlett. Came from, born in Botswana, came to the UK. I think he lived in Plymouth, and then severe financial hardship where his family had to make sacrifices. At 18, he went to university, we did one lecture and left. It's kind of one story. And then now look how Stephen Bartlett's doing. Not too bad. Okay, so it's a good model of uncertainty, but also coming up against your adversity. So knowing that adversity is going to come on your journey. And then with Richard, I think it's more about a story about disability and overcoming disability. That if you're dyslexic and you have those challenges, and then same with him dropping out of, these people don't have degrees. But what they've done is they've gone on this adventure, and you're about to do that too, but they loved it. They do work they love. And so their long game is what's given them incredible results. And it's not to say that they've not had difficulties along the way. Probably both had. So I like that you told that story, and then your story plugs into theirs too. So it's really, really kind of neat. You've been talked about a little bit about all these ideas you've got. And a lot of people might have this issue. I'm permanent. I do want to go and do my own thing, but I've got so many ideas, I wouldn't know which one to do. So my question to you is, what do you think your process will be to identify the one or two things that you're going to spend most of your time on, so you avoid, I call it, I don't know what the UK calls it now, but I call it shiny object syndrome, that there's just flashing lights everywhere. And in the digital world, you can get distracted really easily by all kinds of other people selling you their snake oil. So what is it that you are going to do what's your process going to be to kind of come to I'm going to do this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to follow that path. How will you do that?
I need to first, I'll remember my why. And I think it's really important that everybody taps into their why, of why they're doing their career, why they're running a business. Being an entrepreneur and having a career is so, so challenging. And you need that why to really get you over the humps. When you're down and feeling a little bit demotivated, that's what can lift you back up and really get you going again. It's what fires you up and gets you out of bed to do the great work that you do. So my why is the first thing, and I'm super clear on that. The obvious one is because of my family, because of spending time with my family and making memories with them and being able to have that work-life balance. That's all really, really important. But if I internalize that a little bit more and I think about my why, for me personally, I would say I don't want to get to the end of my career and regret not trying things. So I'm more fearful of not taking a risk and getting to a point in my career where it's too late and I feel like I've played it safe. If I play it safe and I get to like age 60, 65, whatever age I look retiring, and I look back and I think, you've played it really safe, then that's a failure for me. I want to really push myself. So my why is about how far can I push my capability and what can I achieve with that? So that's my deep rooted why. The other thing is having a vision for, you can tell I'm a business transformation strategist because this is just going to come out now. So like when I plan a business, same with your life. So I always say, have a vision And I typically set a vision for like different age brackets. So I've got like a vision of where I want to be for like age 50, another for age 60. And then Tony Robbins, who's another fantastic source of high performance and personal development, talks about have your goals, but be really flexible on how you're going to get there. So I've always prided myself on that. So I've got my vision. I know where I want to get to. Every year, I map out what my transformation journey is for that year and what goals I'm going to focus on hitting. And then I just dial it back from there. And those goals become a yearly goal, become a monthly goal, a quarterly goal, a monthly goal. And then I break it down into what do I need to do this week. And that's how I approach business. So that's going to be my guide of whether I'm on track or not. And then it will be all about the pivot. Quickly pivot away. But I am bad for shiny object syndrome, particularly as I've got all these ideas. So I need to be really disciplined and pick one or two that I'm going to focus in on. And then I need to work out how I'm going to make it happen and ensure that I don't repeat bad behaviours from last time round, which would be try and do everything on my own. If I'm going for it with a business venture, then I prop up a team as quickly as possible, because in many respects, I'm the visionary. You can't just be a visionary in your business. You need an implementer. And while I can do both, you can't wear both hats at the same time. So if you're going to be the visionary in your business, bring someone in who can help implement, or vice versa. So there are my kind of guiding principles that I'm going to be using as I move forward.
All right, so let's get specific on the first one. So somebody who's not done this journey before and hasn't done the level of project and program management, business transformation, digital transformation that you've done might be thinking, well, that's all great. She's got it all mapped out with her vision process. Well, but what about me? I haven't done that before, but I do know I've got this burning feeling inside of me is you should be doing your own thing. So what might be a 1, 2, or 3-step plan that somebody could follow to actually get their vision documented? And then what would be the first steps for them? Because I think leaving, I left my employment at 46, but it took 10 months to leave, because it took about 4 months of planning and another 6 months to, as you say, execute the plan to actually get out of there. So what would be that? Like, what would be the specifics?
So I would say, first of all, listen to your intuition of what energizes you, what gives you fulfillment, what you enjoy about the different elements of your career or your business that you're leaning into, and let that be the guide for you. Because building a business, building a career, they're both incredibly difficult, challenging, a massive roller coaster of highs and lows. And you need to tap into the enjoyment when the times get tough. You need to tap into your why, like I mentioned earlier, but you can't run a business if you hate it. It's too difficult. You can't have a successful career if you're out of alignment, feeling just so despondent with your career and hating every minute of it. You're never going to be your high performance self. Yeah. So I would say be really clear on what you enjoy, what brings you fulfillment, what lights you up, what energizes you. And then I would look at your strengths and I would say, everybody's got strengths, everybody's got weaknesses. The weaknesses, push them to one side. Don't focus on them, because if you focus on them, they will sap your confidence. Hone in on what you're really good at, your unique value, your unique selling point, your unique impact in the world. Get as clear on that as you can. And I'm really clear at age 44 what mine is now. And it gives me so much clarity and enables me to say no to things that I know, one, I'm never going to enjoy, and two, I'm going to be utterly rubbish at. So having that clarity is so helpful, because you can make really wise decisions in your own best interest. So yeah, so what brings you joy, what you're good at, and really lean towards that. And then if you are, say you're looking at your career and you're thinking, I aspire to be whatever the next level is, or whatever it is that you're pushing towards. Say you're a VP and you want to become a CEO. What's the career gap? What is the development gap? Be really clear on what's the difference between where you are now and how you need to develop in your tangible skills, but also in your soft skills to really step into that CEO position. And then you can start building out your career development plan, which is your roadmap to get you to that next step, whatever that next step looks like for you. So the whole vision for your life and all that kind of thing is more about, it's different. That is more about, when do you want to have I break mine out. So I have like personal vision, I have family and relationship, I have finance, and I have career and entrepreneurial journey. So like things like, when do I want to pay my mortgage off? When do I want to be debt free? Do I want a property portfolio? And if so, how big is that? And when do I want that in place? So that's a tangible goal. Personal goals, for example, would be, I want to enable me to operate in my highest vibration and be my highest performance self. I need to look after myself. So at age 50, at age 60, I need a goal that says you are as healthy as you possibly can be. Obviously, circumstances outside of your control can happen, but do your best to look after yourself so that you can be high performance. And then by being in that highest vibration and performing at your best, you're in alignment, you're in flow, you can move into those more senior roles or grow your business. You've got the energy to be able to invest yourself. But what's your burnout is the other thing as well. Just keep an eye on that burnout.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to come back to your self-care pieces because I want to ask you about what you're going to do for 50 and 60. So, but we'll come back to that. But the question there about watching for burnout makes me think about pitfalls. And what do you think some of the pitfalls are of, okay, I've got my vision, I know how to plan this out, these are my action steps. What do you think what do you think you're going to come up against? And what do you think other people might experience as pitfalls?
I'll tell you exactly what mine are. I am a sprinter, not a long runner. So you can tell by my energy, when I'm energized and I'm all in, so I'm like a Duracell bunny bouncing round. But when those batteries go flat, I'll tell you, they go flat and I am out for the count. I know that I can only do short sprints. I know when I'm most productive during the day. So I'm better in the morning. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, get me making the biggest decisions first thing in the morning. By afternoon, that's the worst time for me because the energy starts to taper off. It's the same when it comes to weeks and months. So I know if I've got a big project or I'm building something that I can go all in, but only for a limited time. So I would say 2 months before I start needing a break. And then it becomes about self-care. So daily self-care would be getting to bed on time, not staying up late working, because I used to do that a lot, not being so obsessive that after the kids have gone to bed, I'm back at the laptop building my business till like 12:30 at night. No, that's a really bad habit. So making sure that I get some relaxation time at night, making sure that I exercise daily, even if it's only a little bit, making sure that I get my 8 hours sleep because I am so grumpy and not very productive if I don't get my sleep. And then in the longer term, going for like probably 2 months, 3 months maximum before I need a break. So scheduling holidays at certain periods throughout the year, so I know that I've got a break coming up. And then I can recharge, reset, and go again with the next sprint. So it can't be a continuous sprint. It just doesn't work for me. If you're the kind of person who is more of a steady runner, absolutely amazing. I envy you for that. That's not me. I'm all about fast. Let's do it. Which is I guess it's a bad trait in some respects. But if you are someone who needs to move things quickly, you really, really are prone to burnout. So watching that cycle and really looking after your own personal boundaries and making sure you get plenty of rest is so, so key.
Well, there was a ton in there. So let's ask you this then. Don't talk about self-care because you mentioned that about what life will be like for you at 50 and 60. Is there something that you're prioritizing in that self-care regime? You talked about sleep, you talked about exercise, you talked about taking breaks, scheduling breaks across the year. Where do you focus? It's like, this is my number one thing. And I know if I get that right, I think that's going to get me where I want to be when I'm 50 and 60. What's that for you?
So first and foremost, I will not deprioritize family time. That is number one for me. So having time where I've got two little boys, making sure that I'm really disciplined and compartmentalizing different areas of my life. So like when I'm with the children, I am 100% focused on them. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not making notes, trying to build my business or doing whatever I'm doing. I am all in family time. When I'm in business mode, though, it's the same. I need to be all consumed in that. So I'll stick with that moving forward. So I would say I'll never sacrifice time with the children. Other things, other than there's so many. Every day when I plan my day out, I always plan like my priorities and my focus for the day. So I always try and I'm not rigid with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm really flexible with it. So I'll always make sure I'm really clear on what I need to achieve that day. But I kind of ebb and flow a little bit because I'm very heart led. So what I say I'm going to do is not always where I end up. I do flex it as I go. But I would say you've got to look at your own needs and listen to your own body. Your body will tell you when it's time to rest. But I think having those boundaries, having a normal working pattern when you're an entrepreneur is really key. Or when you're working a career, be disciplined. When that laptop lid comes down, you're not going to boot it back up. So like whatever time you finish work, and working from home is a challenge. I'm well versed in that because I've done it for such a long time. But if you've only just started working from home recently or at the start of COVID, it's really tempting to go and have your tea and then come and sit back at your laptop again and I'll just do a few more emails. And before you know it, it's like 11:30 at night and then everything just blends in. You feel like you're on a treadmill then, and then your health starts to suffer. And it's subtle at first, but that burnout comes. It's like a silent killer. It comes and it like just suddenly it'll just get you from nowhere. And then depending on how bad it is, it can take days, weeks, months to recover.
How much of that is personal experience, or how much of that have you learned from a particular role model or coach who kind of opened your eyes up to how you segment your time and how you schedule things throughout the day? So tell us a little bit about that. Is it trial and error, or is there somebody who this role model was somebody who influenced me enough to make me think, oh, I've got to take more control of this? Tell us about that. What happened there?
I think it's a blend of everything. So over the years, I've listened to so many different podcasts, so many different experts, different trainings. I've always taken the bits that I found helpful from each of them. There's a few go-to ones that I'll go quite regularly to. Like, I love The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. He was one of like the original ones that I started watching probably when I was about 30. His has been going for a long time now. Mel Robbins is another good one. You get a lot of insights from Shark Tank, like I mentioned it. Shark Tank's amazing. So like the entrepreneurs on there, like Mark Cuban and Mr. Wonderful, they've got their own channels. There's lots of tips from them. So I've listened to a lot of autobiographies on Audible books as well. And I think I've just taken little bits and pieces from everywhere and consciously and unconsciously over time applied different techniques. And now I'm really clear on what works for me. So I would say just have fun with it, feel into it. The biggest tips for me are always plan your week ahead on a Sunday. Always plan your day ahead the night before, because it enables you to get up, seize the day. You've got total clarity of what you need to do, where you're headed, all of that. You could say the same at the start of the month, plan your month ahead. And it doesn't need to make fun of it, like enjoy the process. Get a nice cup of tea or whatever it is at night when you're planning your day. Have a drink of something, have a chocolate bicky, whatever it is, but make an enjoyable experience of it. I like to do my planning at like 9:00 at night, watching something on Netflix. So it's not a formal thing. It can be fun if you make it fun. Well, I think my family think I'm absolutely bonkers. I think Nigel's so used to me now. I can tell you in the early days of my entrepreneurial journey, the amount of evenings that I would make him sit on the edge of the bed or on the other side of the settee and just listen to me brainstorm my crazy ideas. And he'd humour me. He wouldn't, like, he was so disinterested in it, but he would humour me, and he still does to this day. But he's like my biggest supporter, and he's got more faith in my capability than I have in myself. So I might come across like I'm super confident, but it is scary going into the unknown. And I have had, it took me a long time to decide to resign from what everybody would probably perceive as an amazing permanent job. I'm sure a lot of people think I'm absolutely crazy from walking away from it. It's a senior leadership position in one of the world's biggest technology companies, but it's just not my path. And for anyone else, I would say, for anyone who's permanent, who's destined to be permanent, incredible, go eat your heart out, do what you love. But for me, I need to take that risk and take that challenge. And Nige has always been, I think he thinks I'm crazy, but he's always been my biggest supporter. And when I'm feeling a little bit low and doubting my decisions, he's like, you think he'd be saying to me, don't resign from that job, it's a bit silly. He was telling me to resign before I had even lined anything else up. In fact, 3 months ago, he was saying to me, you need to stop. This is quite a good analogy, actually, that I came up with. He said to me, you need to stop being the monkey that tries to hold on to two branches, because you're never going to get anywhere. He said, you need to swing for the next branch. And even if you can't see it, you've got to have faith in yourself that you're going to grab it and you're going to grab hold and go for it. And I've always been that person to take a risk. But in the last 4 years, something changed in me and I became more risk adverse. So he was definitely the one saying, come on, it's time now. Swing for that next branch. I know you can't see it, but just go for it and have faith that you'll make it work. And I think that is so powerful. And it comes back to, you have the power to take control of your own destiny. Yeah. Don't be reckless with it. I mean, I was a little bit more sensible this time around than what I have been previous, but I think don't be reckless. At least have a loose plan, but you can't procrastinate for too long. You've got to take a risk at some point. Everybody's stepping into the unknown, whether you're starting a business, whether you're moving from one job to another. Things can fall through and things can change. So everything's a risk, but sometimes you just got to place a bet on yourself and go for it.
Yeah. I think that was a long answer to tell us that he would call you a winner.
Oh, well, I'd say I'm crazy, but.
All right. I want people to be able to connect with you because they've now watched this. And there's probably some women out there who are feeling frustrated and not sure what to do next, especially if you're in the UK, people. This is an international audience. People all over the world see this. But if you're in the UK and you're looking for somebody to give you some guidance about employee and entrepreneurship transfers, moving between these two places, I think Suzi would be a great person. So where's the best place to contact you? And when they do, what's the free thing, the value you're going to give to them straight away? What's that?
So I would say the best place is on LinkedIn. So you can find me on there, Suzi Payne. So come and connect with me on my page. And if you do want to have a chat with me, then grab a free discovery call. My calendar link's on my page. Feel free to book 30 minutes in with me. And we can just have a little bit of a brainstorm around how you're feeling, whether it's in your career or in your business. And then we can hopefully get you thinking about grabbing control of your own success.
Yeah, let's dig in a little bit. So I want to make sure they get their time, right? So most people value their time more than anything else. So if I book a call with you, what's your guarantee and promise to me? At the end of that call, what do I get?
So you can get my insights for the full 30 minutes. You tell me your biggest challenge and I will help you unblock it. I mean, 30 minutes is not long, but I think focus on one thing that's keeping you up at night, that's really grinding you down and keeping you stuck and stopping you getting the success that you want. And let's unblock that first, and then you can move forward to the next thing.
So there you go. You've got to get unblocked and you want to move out of your position of frustration right now. And you've always had this feeling inside of you that an entrepreneurship journey might be right for you, and you can get some clarity around that in that phone call. then get over to Suzanne Mosley Payne on LinkedIn, and you can find her there and book yourself a call, and that would be the best place to go. Suzanne, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been awesome listening to you and hearing from you about your journey backwards and forwards between employee and entrepreneurship. And I know that's going to help somebody out there. And if that's you, then I'm looking forward to hearing their success story through you.
Thank you so much for having me, James. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope I've given some value in this conversation and inspired the audience to take control of your own success.
It's been great. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching that little video. I appreciate you tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. But before you go, I want to make sure you click on this next video, because if you're somebody who is an employee right now and that conversation about entrepreneurship worked for you, this next video is going to be just what you need. I'll see you inside.